Okay, we're about to go in for the council of the whole meeting here, May 15th. I don't see a police officer around, so I don't know if they're going to have a security check or not. But I guess we'll find out here. I'm not sure this thing is recording. Let me see if I can take a look here. Looks like we are. This is it.
This is it?
This is it.
You going in?
Go ahead.
So
Oh, okay.
You're carrying something.
Yeah, you got a bunch in your hands.
So you had a good time.
Hello.
Hello.
That was 6 hours ago.
It's okay.
Is this?
Council meeting?
Yes.
You
Yes.
just want to take off your bag and.
Yeah, I will. I was going to let them
Oh,
go first or
okay.
something.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have anything in your pockets?
I got keys and
Alright,
stuff.
and you just want to
Keys
set your
and
phone and
change.
stuff right there just so it doesn't go off when I buzz you. Can you turn around for me, please?
Wallet too?
Yeah. You're just talking about the medic neg strips and your credit cards are going to set
Oh,
it off.
gotcha.
So, alright, you're good.
Put my arms out or?
Yep. Just like TSA.
Yes.
Do you have a belt on or something like
Yep.
that? Okay.
Girl.
How's your daughter doing?
Good. She loves it. Yeah, she loves AIT.
You're good.
We go get her.
She can't. She can't wait to come back and do ride-alongs. That's what she wants to do.
Take these back.
All right,
Oh, which way do we
walk
go?
through that door right there.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
We are recording, just so you know.
That's fine.
Oh,
Oh, it's on.
Should be able to pull on it.
Oh, run back.
Turn around for me,
You're
please.
fine. Perfectly fine. Do you want to list what they're going to talk about? The agenda's right there.
oh, thank you.
Alright, you're good, and I'll just take a quick peek in that bag if you don't mind.
Peek away.
Alright. And this is just binder, folder.
Open
looks
it up.
like. Papers. Alright. You're good. Okay, you're good.
By the way, I dropped off some information Thursday regarding our parking problem on Fairview.
Okay. I was on vacation last week.
I've called on it consistently, and you guys have violated them 3 and 4 times a month. With all this rewrite of the zoning code, I've dug into it more. Come to find out, the entire frontage of this house is at the intersection of Fairview, and in our zoning code,
Okay.
it restricts parking at intersections. Pardon me?
Okay.
So I'll,
I think when your wife was talking to Officer Taylor, you mentioned
Yes.
the possibility of putting signage up there that would inform the residents that that is within the intersection.
yes. Now granted, they're probably just going to either move farther or up or down the
Well, they're
street.
going to move one way or the other.
But this picture here, this is what bothers me. They have all the parking room in the world to park every vehicle in the house. The whole parking driveway is empty. They prefer to park out on the street
Okay.
all day long, all night long. That's what irritates me.
Okay.
Why aren't you parking in your available parking spot?
Well,
On
I
your
see that's
property.
a single car drive, so they don't have space to go around on the neighbor's
Correct.
property to go around in the car.
But Frank, when you lived over there next to me, we shuffled our cars around, didn't we?
Actually, I didn't shuffle any traffic on your driveway.
I don't know whether you had
I
one,
did
two.
not. I did not. I had 2 cars. I did not shuffle traffic on your driveway.
Well, you didn't have to, because then
You
you
were
could.
very forward with asking me when I moved in, explaining that the previous resident had allowed you to park at the middle of the drive and then go around her on our driveway.
Well,
So,
with that property,
but this is a totally different issue.
Hello?
You're talking to.
How are you?
How are
on that
you?
property,
I believe I saw a call for service where they did make contact with
just
the
recently,
resident at the house. Yes, this past week.
well,
Yep.
they
We
haven't
found
changed
out
their,
magnetic strips of-
their activity because they're parked out there right now.
Okay.
I guess it's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
Yeah.
At any rate, at your old house, there's room to split off, and each of you, whoever's parked there, can back out. But a lot of these houses don't. Mine doesn't. So I've created a parking spot behind my house.
All right, can you turn around for me, please?
So for Mrs. Warren to characterize it that these people don't have room to park,
Thank you.
Yep.
they do. They just don't want the inconvenience of having to move
How
one
are you?
so then the other one can get out. Thank you.
Really no way that meets the range spots back there, because they're huge. Oh. There you go, okay. That was why I ran it past my neighbor. Yep.
Speaking of which,
You get things in house like backyard, Patrick,
I have worked with
$600, but it
put out a call.
crawler kind of messed things up.
If not, if that doesn't work, you are eligible for an upgrade in October. And we can upgrade you to that. So at the worst.
Okay, that's fine, I can suffer through until October, I can suffer.
Mr. Dior, this is a situation we're dealing with on my street. This house is 230 Fairview. I go and see the entire frontage of their house is in the intersection.
This house or this house? So I know which one you're talking about.
This one here
So this house here, the entire frontage of their house,
is in the intersection.
so there's a street that's right here.
Yes, yes.
Got it. Kim, oh, I put
And-
the name of that street, so I know when I go look at
It's
it.
Fairhart.
Sure, got
A
it,
former
okay.
policeman lives at the end of it. He's retired. Yeah.
Yeah, so McKinley's down here, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, got it.
Now, you guys have ticketed them numerous times, because I like to look out and see my street is cleared out. And $5 tickets for a joke.
Yeah, so is there no parking on this side of the street?
Correct. Mr. Wise did that. To be honest with you, the entire street, there's a blind hill down here. You could be way down here at Foster and not see who's coming up at the top of that hill. And vice versa. If you're down here coming from McKinley, you can't see who's coming up over the hill.
Okay.
But this is what they prefer. They just
So how
want
about
to
I, how about I come out and take a look at it?
Sure,
Maybe I
sure.
can meet you out
Okay. But I thought I'd take this picture today. I
there. Can I
understand.
have it?
You can have that. I'm gonna give one to every one of you.
Okay.
Now, there may be situations here in town where people have minimal or almost no parking. And I'll tell you right now, the two houses down here at the corner of McKinley and Fair have honestly no off-street parking except in their garage. There have been a lot of mistakes made decades ago that have put us in this mess. This is a very narrow street.
Yes, it's an original street, so it's narrower than the one.
It's 24 feet.
All right, so like Thursday, by 10:30 or you're?
I can get up early.
Oh, I got a
Anything for
meeting in
you.
the morning.
That's fine.
10:30.
That's early for me. I'll go bed till 2 or 3 o'clock.
10:30 is early, do you want to make it 11? Is that better?
I'm catering to you. You're the
No, I'm
one.
This is
Go
a very
11
rare
o'clock.
event.
Okay, 11 o'clock.
When you have rum.
After the day I had, perfect.
And I'll just come to your house and we'll do a walk. Will that work?
Sure, I'd love to show you some
Thanks.
areas in the street, in the neighborhood.
All right.
But this impacts the entire street. The other day, Kimball, for some reason, her Kimball truck's like back down Fairhard here.
Oh,
You ever do
They actually had a
that?
manager driving that, he got nice khakis on, there, dressed nicely.
Pizza also.
He wasn't here. But
strawberry.
can you imagine trying to back out of Fairhard?
God, it's rancid.
The big set we parked, there, 2 of them, have been hit twice.
And your buddies was up in
Remember to say, it's probably better to park on the street than in your own parking lot. Totally disagree with that.
Well, I'll do this and then I'll-
Next Thursday at
And then they stop, then they leave.
Thank you.
Okay.
You get updates.
I'll leave one to every one of you.
Okay.
I had a
Stormy Snare.
Hello, sir. fraternity drinks for Joe.
I just explained it all to Pam.
I heard a little bit of it. I know, I'm familiar with the area. I patrolled it many years.
This is our situation.
Mhm.
This is Fairheart coming out here.
Okay, going this way.
This house.
And which way is this?
Oh, I remember
Oh,
that.
McKinley.
That's.
McKinley's down.
Gotcha.
This is Fairheart coming out here.
Oh,
This
really?
house
I didn't
here,
realize there was a road coming off on this side of the street.
this house at
I mean, we
233
do have other drives that people,
entire
they
frontage
enjoy.
is in the intersection.
I think the solution would be is to move it so they can park either there or there.
Well, we know they're gonna move somewhere else.
Sure,
This is what irritates me.
yeah.
They have an entire length of driveway to utilize. They, I spit on you? I'm sorry.
never know.
And they don't want to,
Prefer there
they don't want to have to,
What if it's being, what if they're having?
so this is better.
you want for residents,
That's my,
once every 30 years.
something like that.
Straight in.
But
Is
where,
other things we do?
no, but I'm saying, where are they gonna park?
What we do in the past is call the police department,
It's already sold.
I need to be on the street
You know,
for 10 days. I'm taking my car over to Hoover Park.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
People have to think of the community, not of their own.
and I think this is the proper way of handling somebody parking on the street. Show me the ordinance where you can just call the police department and park on the street.
Sixth grade.
If you're not
January, the police, you call them, and ask what should I do in this situation, they would just tell you the accommodation.
But.
Yes,
What
we
is it?
for the time they need to be on the street.
What ordinances they have?
They had to actually write out.
You're trying to steer me down your path.
Well, I'm trying to tell you, this is correcting things.
This is not, and you don't need to correct
What I would consider fine.
90 days
I have to drive by.
park on the street for a 10-day need.
You can actually see that.
I just don't see it opening up the floodgates as you identify proper things that, or things that need to be addressed.
And you have
Or
no,
be addressed.
you have
I
no
don't think it's just
criteria,
gonna open the floodgates.
you have no criteria.
Even if he doesn't fix it
Who
up in
has a chance of being approved or come in, and who
very
doesn't?
excited.
Is there that information in our laws and regulations?
No.
It's not there now. We're trying to address it.
But if you're trying to create a criteria that we will give you a permit, it sounds like all you have to do is apply and you're gonna get a permit. Somebody could actually sue. What is the process? What is your criteria for refusing
Get
it?
there.
So
Yeah.
you might get there, but it's, I know Chris can.
Get an accommodation for a driver
So,
that's
you know, when I see that stuff.
10 days, or a funeral that lasts maybe 3 days. You don't need 90 days for this.
How do you ship it out west?
I got you, you know, another thought that I thought about.
I'm gonna give you that.
Okay. You've done significant work to your house, right?
You buy the stuff that's already fresh.
What if you're doing a lot of construction over here? Where do you park your cars? Is on an R50?
I don't park on the street.
Okay, but I'm saying, in the middle of construction, it might take a month or two. Where do you park?
Over to the property.
On somebody
On
else's.
somebody else's property? Can I park in your driveway when my driveway?
All right.
Well, no, I'm just, I mean, we're playing what about is, I'm not gonna play.
These people was parking on the street, in the intersection for years. And for some reason, the police don't even know their own code.
Then I would go to the police department and say, look, I take a look at that next time, see if they can't park there.
How much I've called out this time? They've done it for over there. For $5. It was a joke. They gladly paid it.
Yep, I heard somebody refer to that as, that's their parking permit.
That's what you ought to be adjusting.
We are.
If you make it a $25 or $40 parking fee,
Promoted big stuff.
you're late to the show here. This has been going on for decades.
Yep.
I had the other same thing farther down the street.
Gallery style.
A gentleman who liked to do repairs in his driveway.
Yeah.
He would drive 3 or 4 of those cars on the street, on that blind hill, and leave them there all day long.
And so, well.
Are there a lot of
It is-
accidents on the hill?
Yes, there's been 7 accidents
There's how many?
over the last 15 years. 7? Yes. This house here has had 2 of them.
We went,
Really?
Yes,
sister went through
for
phase,
me,
this
this
is
is
pretty cool.
it's safer probably to go park on your own driveway. Because last-
Yeah, I don't know about that. Yeah. Okay, thanks for the picture.
And,
Yeah.
so everything's not here. This house here where they park has an entire 100-foot length of driveway that's available to park in.
Friday night I went over looking for
You
you.
pick in the drive,
Where?
parking
You're moving happy hour over to,
Arrowhead, Fairview, and
Were you
Fairhart.
there?
Yes, I was. Okay.
Fairhart comes out here.
Oh.
Where was I Friday? I stayed in Friday.
And I don't know why the city, please, has
Not
not paid and at nighttime. Unfortunately, they have no frontage that allows them to park on the street, because the other side is no parking at all. Now granted, they'll probably park down there in front of me, or up here.
Right.
Why don't you use your own driveway?
That's a terrible feeling. That's sick. It's a sick feeling.
Yeah, what's,
Get anything?
How are you?
They have a whole,
oh, it's that one?
they can get all 4 of their cars out there. But they just don't want to.
Had a good day.
Like I used to do.
I've never been
And I've gone to a regular steps to create a parking between my house and that.
Patrick said he's
all
gonna
over the mail.
All right, very good. You're all good.
So for Stephanie to sit there and say, hey, we need to have pity on people, they don't have a room to park, that is not the
It's
case.
escaping the city back.
It's a very narrow street. It's a very narrow street.
But it was good. It was a good day.
Yes.
Beautiful.
I've always seen your calls, I could
Yes.
so.
Good.
And find yourself facing somebody, here, going up the hill and boom.
Around the corner.
I reached out
And
to
vice versa, you're coming up from Foster, you don't know who's
try to
coming
have
down here.
different, clear technology at each meeting.
The street's only 24 feet. I was just out on Monticello for 30 feet. Pardon me?
No, no. I've got it. I experienced it.
Yeah, there's always grass there, but it's a driveway.
Yep.
I wonder if they, is that person lives there?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
They moved in about 5 or 6 years ago,
Oh, yeah.
maybe 7.
Hi, Christine. Me?
I tell you what, it's concrete.
Looks like it's stone
How are you?
grass.
Well, thank you.
Shouldn't see
That's
bad.
concrete.
Right.
Here's something you ought to plan on. I've told you this
Mental
before.
health awareness week.
Houses don't last a lifetime.
Where's your ribbon?
They slowly decline and deteriorate.
You were not wearing the ribbon?
We ought to be charging, and they ought to be doing
You were not wearing the
this.
ribbon.
Collect, say, a $5 a month charge. Because eventually, the public is gonna have to demo that house probably.
If I had a ribbon, it would.
So create a demolition fund, so you can start picking and choosing, which is all 50 lots. You can go,
How are you doing?
the remaining lots never.
I felt slighted, you didn't come over and say anything?
It's not a bad idea.
Oh, you did?
The block grant, the block grant program is supposed to be getting funded by the state. Which will might help, but that's first come, first served.
Canton's probably got
Yeah,
3,000 to
that's,
5,000
that's the
houses that need to be
problem.
demoed. They're waiting for their handout, for the state to provide the money.
The cities get
If they
the
would
bigger
start
cities.
assessing, the water.
Did you
Must be good.
Watersheds, yeah.
Yeah, start collecting nickels and pennies, build it up to a spot, so when you need to demo a house, you've got the money available.
Leave it to our staff.
So,
They'll probably come up with something.
I'll tell
But
Jennifer.
that day's not
That's
coming.
clever, yeah.
I thought of
It
you
will,
today,
you're
because I
right.
like went to my doctor.
Actually,
and
what police department?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
all these issues,
Yeah.
and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start walking every day. So I like went from the doctor. I was doing
And you guys maybe dig into this, I was always been aware of this overnight 2 to 6. And I get to dig into it, it says you can't park at the intersection,
yeah,
and this is an intersection in front of that house.
yeah.
And I don't know how you're gonna mark these for the public, either paint the curb a certain color, so you know you can park it from here to here.
Right. Right.
I'd hate to see signs go up all over these places.
I know, but I seriously thought of you while I was
If you were to paint the curb,
all the time.
maybe just mark it one end and the other.
Yeah.
But it is no fun living in these R50 neighborhoods on narrow
No.
driveways with curb cuts every 30, 40 feet,
Yeah.
People
Right,
have
whatever.
to plan their lives.
Yeah.
You can't expect the public to live with your overflow lifestyle.
Yeah.
I live on a short road too.
I tell you what, it's
This week the car was parked in the
of
wrong
course, this was a
way
different one. And I
in front of the fire.
you keep this around. To raise my age.
Then as you go up on it, there was an RV.
And then I think
It was parked the wrong way.
Right.
but I'm looking at the plane.
We've got an RV that is parked, there's a hill like this.
And we're actually not responsible.
Yes.
Yeah, we're just, we do it both ways.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's just residents, so they brought the kids over, yeah. And we found the pavilion, there was a whole
How are you, Sue?
Okay.
Still searching.
Okay, still
Yeah,
there.
that next 2 weeks.
Showtime. Alright. Couple more seconds.
Yeah, Tracy took it.
I just went live.
Oh, no, that's fine. Just.
No, I'll go. I'll go. Give me about 10 seconds. I now call to order the Committee of the Whole on May 15th, 2023. The time is 7 p.m. Ben, would you please call the roll?
Member Orr?
Here?
Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Volt?
Here.
Member McLeisner?
Here.
Member Wire?
Here.
5 present.
Motion to excuse members Matheny and Waring. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, start off with Community and Economic Development. Daryl.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is return from the Planning Commission, an ordinance which will amend 1136 Main Street districts, which will allow multi-unit dwellings on the ground floor when the property is in the Main Street district but is not on Main Street. And in part, the explanation is provided on page 6 of your packet. And I'd ask you to turn to that. Amendment would permit the construction of medium-density housing units such as row houses, brownstones, or townhouses that have to have dwelling on the main floor. Clearly, we have some neighborhoods, existing residential neighborhoods that would butt up to these Main Street zoned areas, but are probably not suitable for commercial activity. So this is a nice way to segue into or transition into this. I would also note that this sort of medium density housing is consistent with what we're seeing both across Ohio and in other states in terms of newer residential development, where older communities are redeveloping. We're seeing this pattern of development. So tonight's action, if there is, this is going to come back to us, our action tonight is to set a public hearing date of June 26th. Are there any questions about the concept or the hearing date? Good. Seeing none, I'll make a motion that we set the hearing date for June 26th. Second.
You need the time.
At, let's go 6:45.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can we have a motion and a second to move ordinance 30-2023 to the council agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on, Dale, again.
Okay, we should probably have the minutes reflect that we've been joined by Member Warren,
Thank you.
My house is not on fire,
3B.
so we're all good.
Ordinance 32-23 has also come back from the Planning Commission. Just to refresh everyone's memory, we're in the process of taking our commercial parking from a mandatory size to a recommended size. And if you look at the ordinance, this is consistent with what we had in our master plan. And in large part, it's a recognition that we have limited commercial space within the city. We are not likely to add or zone additional, rezone residential properties to commercial. So the question is, how can we maximize commercial development? And I think why this is important, I asked Ben to do a little dive on it. Ben has a slide that is a nice summary of the math behind this. Ben, why don't you explain that just quickly?
So Daryl had me look at what our current land uses are. So I categorize them into 5 general uses, which is low density residential, high density residential, mixed use, commercial industrial, and park and institutional. And you can see that we're pretty heavily a residential city. 60% of our land is low density residential. Now, the American Planning Association designates uses based on supporting or supported. So what they mean by that is the land use likely to generate excess tax revenue to support other property, or is it likely to require spending tax revenue to support that property? And residential, park and institutional is generally a supported use, not a supporting use. So at our current land use makeup, we have a 4-to-1 ratio of supported to supporting. So that means every 1 acre of productive, I'll say, land, so commercial industrial uses that really provide our income tax and property tax revenues, must support 4 acres of residential land plus the acre itself of commercial industrial. So each 1 acre of commercial industrial must support 5 acres of land in the city. The ratio currently is worse in Ward 4, which has a 14.7-to-1 ratio of commercial land, residential land and commercial land. For purposes of clarity, the schools and Walsh are large employers, but they are zoned park and institutional, so we did take them out of park and institutional and count them as commercial industrial
For the purposes
for the
of
purposes
this.
of that.
I think, just as a footnote, this chart underscores the critical nature of redevelopment in our community, because we need to drive higher values and where we can, larger job counts. You remember we have our 10-point criteria. The first 2 are capital investment and job count. So again, what we're trying to do is maximize that 20%, understanding that we are not, it's not likely we will be rezoning property to commercial. So this brings us back to kind of where we are in terms of this parking. Instead of mandating the number of parking spots in these commercial areas, we are going to create there will be a recommended size. That recommendation, let me just take a step back.
if you drive past Acme Albrecht, you will note that there is an inordinate amount of unused asphalt. Question, can that be converted to some economic use if the owner so wishes? If you drive to Washington Square, many of you will have probably noted that there is a large parking lot west of the Giant Eagle. Question, could that be used for some commercial purpose? Mr. Diori and I were out at the Wendy's having lunch 6 weeks ago. We were there at lunchtime. There is an appalling amount of unused asphalt at that site.
Mm-hmm.
So could that entire complex, had we had the recommended approach, could have been reconfigured to more productive uses? Open question. So, this has come back favorably from the Planning Commission. We need to schedule a public hearing, which we will do at sometime after 6:45.
Well, you can add it to the same.
We'll add it to the same one. That's good. Thank you. On the 26th. But drive around and look at, in the interim, drive around and look at, is this the best use for our 20%? And the answer is probably not. We should also note that this is not a unrestricted approach. If you take a look at the ordinance, in section 1153.12, there's a development plan review. And my guess is, at the end of the day, as I looked at some of these on Google Earth, this will only probably apply to a handful of sites at the end of the day. And I would also note that I'm not particularly concerned because no one is going to invest large sums of money if they don't have enough parking. So there is a market force that will be at play. The developer will have to think hard about how much parking he really needs, but we're not going to stand over and say, you need X plus Y, when you really don't need Y. Questions or comments?
You know, I'll just throw out as a former chairman of the Planning Commission, I can remember many times looking at projects and just looking at the parking that was required for them and just thinking there's so much better use for that land than parking spots. And again, it's not every single project we ran into, but quite a few of them. So I fully support this. I think it's a great move. And it's only going to help the property owner. So, Christine.
I just want to note that this isn't a criticism of the current property owners or current developers in the community. This is, we've essentially like handcuffed them because this number of parking spaces were required. So this is actually a benefit to them if they would like to look into something more productive.
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I think we have to understand that these regulations were created literally a generation ago. And many times they came to the city, came to the Planning Commission as part of a cookie cutter approach to zoning. Well, this is the formula, this is the standard formula, everybody uses it, you should adopt it. Well, did it really work? And the answer is probably not, in retrospect. But again, I come back to the 80-20.
I look at the south side of where the Hoover Company was. All that, and I don't think anyone had parked way in the back there for years and years and years. That could really be developed into something special.
Yeah, if I might add that I iterated it once before, but it would be worthwhile repeating that we have to understand the changing nature of the business model and not to have our regulations be so rigid for so many decades. So if we just talk about QSRs, quick service restaurants, you know, and restaurants in general, but mostly quick service restaurants, that's what we have in North Canton. You know, they were required to have so many parking spots per seating inside. Maybe 50 years ago that made sense, but let's just take a look at McDonald's and Burger King up there on North Main. So, you know, both of them have in excess of 50 parking spots. They don't, the business model has changed, right? So McDonald's now has a double lane drive-through because people aren't getting out of their car to go in and sit down and eat. It's a to-go, take-out business, and to waste all that parking space that's not needed. Could have reconfigured each one of those developments. Burger King's on 1.4 acres. Could put 2 places there. But because they're required to carry so much parking, back in the day, that's where we are. We want to make sure that those back in the days don't be back to the future kind of thing. So that's why we recommend, you know, this change. It's very important. In parking spaces, don't pay taxes.
That's right. I mean, you look at Pabs, we almost lost Pabs
Yeah.
because of parking.
Yep.
And you look at that place and there's a line out the door almost
You
every
could
day.
still lose them if you had an owner move
Right.
in.
True.
It's not as nice as the owner that's over there now.
That's very true.
You know, I just looked, as I was looking on Google Earth today, I mean, there were 4 sites that I thought that would potentially benefit from this new approach. The first would be the Washington Square Complex. The second was Marks Plaza. And again, I'm looking at Google Earth, all the asphalt. Acme Albrecht, huge amount of asphalt. And that South Main complex, which has whole latte love and the other stuff down there.
Yeah, that's
I
true.
mean, you've got that whole front end down there that might be amenable to some additional development down the road. So, and who knows, you know, this might help at Waterside, for example, that front parcel, if we weren't quite so tough on the parking, give them a little more space to build. So, at any rate, I think we've probably flogged this to the point of boredom. I'm gonna make a motion that we schedule this for a public hearing on the 26th at June 26th at 6:45.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can we have a motion and a second to move ordinance 32-2023 to the council agenda?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to finance and property, Stephanie.
Okay. We had, my readers on. We just had some expenditures that we needed to move, some supplemental expenditures from the municipal road fund and in the capital improvements fund that will be replaced at a later date. Jim, do you want to talk about that a little bit? I know they're coming back.
Yeah, so
I can't see right now.
we receive municipal road funds, and Rob, our city engineer, he does great, and he has or will be receiving grants, and so we're appropriating an increase in expenditures because Rob's grants will be taking over the cost of that. So that's pretty much the supplemental appropriations we're doing.
So what is Rob doing with it?
So he gets reimbursements based off.
So that's where it says that let's see, the municipal road fund and capital improvement fund, street repair expenses will be reimbursed by other sources.
Right. So he's gotten funds. Yeah, he's going to be getting funds from municipal road funds, OPWC, and ODOT.
Okay.
They'll be reimbursed for these expenditures. So.
Okay. And which projects are this?
That is the Charlotte Street project, $1.74 million.
Okay.
I believe that's the main project. And we're spending down the fund balance for the municipal road fund. So.
Okay. Any other questions? And as you know, we move funds throughout the year, and this is one of those that came up.
Need a motion to move to the agenda?
I do.
I will make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to street and alley, that is me. Okay, ordinance 38, 2023. This is clarifying and simplifying the subdivision process. This came back from the planning commission on May 4th with approval. Patrick, do you want to go over this? The packet starts on page 22 for people following.
Not particularly. I'll let you run with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's
You said
long.
there's a public hearing, right?
Came back from the public hearing, correct?
At planning, you need one here?
No?
Yeah, you do.
Oh, we do? Oh, yeah, we
Yeah,
do.
so
Yes,
then-
we do, yeah.
Revolt will make a motion. That we have a public hearing on June 26th. It's 6:45.
Destroy seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion and a second to move ordinance 38-2023 to the council agenda?
Revolt moves.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on to the next ordinance here. Sorry, having trouble reading today. This is vacation of the alley, and this does have unanimous consent, so there's no need for a public hearing on this. The police and fire also signed off on this. So I went and drove by this property. This packet, it starts on page 36 for people following on the packet. There are some particulars to this, if you guys want to get into it. I don't know, but it does have unanimous
I
consent.
can opine on that.
Sure.
For you, if you don't mind. So this is, at the corner of Rose Lane, Southeast and Main Street. This would be on the east side of Main. The business that's there is North Canton Collision. And we're certainly grateful that North Canton has a lot of successful businesses in it, and this is certainly one of them. They have a great reputation for fixing your car up when you mess it up. However, they do get backlogged on a regular basis. So many people are availing themselves of their services. And as a result, a lot of damaged inventory that they're fixing is out on the property. And it's been burgeoning, spreading out. And so we've had some discussions with them on getting them to understand why it's important to kind of stay and draw within the lines with all these extra vehicles. And it just became apparent that unless we worked out an arrangement, it's likely that the business probably would have left, because there's just no room. I mean, they have residential behind it, there's just no way to expand. So what we thought might be an appropriate response after working with various internal officials is that we could vacate the alley, part of the alley, that's behind North Canton Collision. They own property on both sides of the alley, so it's kind of really a development that doesn't really see through traffic through there anyway, so it just made sense to vacate that portion, and then as a requirement or concession back to us, if we vacated it, was the requirement that they were going to have to fence in the property as it faces Rose Lane, as it faces the alley, and if you came down off of, I think that's Schneider. So where we vacate the alley, they'll put fence gates in. These gates will have knock boxes so that the fire department could get in there if needed. But for the most part, then that will just become a private parcel with no cut through. And we think that that gives them enough space to rearrange their vehicles, that they're all within the gate, that will be shielded from view from the public with the the fencing that goes around it. And we think it's just a good solution while they're working through their inventory. They recognize that business has been good and they had suffered from a lot of global supply chain interruptions and getting parts. It's put them in a situation, they really don't want to turn away business, right? We want them to be successful. So we think this is an agreement that we'd worked out between the parties, and this is our part of it here is to vacate this portion of the alley.
I have a question. Did you say unanimous approval between the parties? Is that
There is only one party.
okay?
They own both sides of the alley.
Okay.
So this is different than like the one you might recall that we did for St. Paul's Church and the other church right next to it. That alley, when we vacated it, required the approval, because typically when you vacate the alley, one half goes to party A, one half goes to party B. And in that case, we had two different churches. So it required both of those churches to sign off that they agreed that they would take their respective parts and they didn't object. In this case, both property owners are the same person.
Does anyone else use the alley? I asked this just, an alley was vacated behind my home, and there was not a public hearing. I don't know what, it was a previous council, I don't know, but like, we lost access. So, with like, no warning. So is there,
I remember that.
yeah, yeah, I'm still mad about
So-
it. But anyway, so is anyone else going to be affected by?
Well, the part that's not being vacated, it will still be available to use by the plaza that houses Zepp's Pizza and I don't think the cake lady's there. She's still
Yeah,
there.
she's still there.
And then there's the
Okay.
the vaping store.
So that part of the alley is
That's
still available?
And then on the other
Okay.
side of that alley is Goodyear Tire.
Yeah.
And they will have access to the alley and the service bays that are on the back side of both of those buildings. Vehicles will be able to get in there, whether it's a FedEx vehicle delivering parts to Goodyear Tire, or if it's Zepp's getting loads of fresh
Yeah.
tomatoes.
Okay, perfect.
So I was gonna interject as well. One, I think this is a great idea to help out a local business and kind of get things taken care of there at that property. But is that alley is what, 10 feet wide?
Typically alleys are 10 feet.
Right, okay. Does that create an issue with, say, delivery trucks going to that plaza, which I believe they get stuff from the back? Or do we anticipate an issue? Or I guess the other question I have along with that, and I apologize, I got two, they can be rolled into one. Would it be best just to vacate that alley, or that portion of the alley to the respective property owners as well? Or do we want to continue to maintain that
All right, so
portion?
let me make sure that I'm making this very clear.
Sure.
So if you look at, I can't read it, it's a small bend, but it looks like, let's just say that the North Canton collision that's on the west side of the alley runs from Rose Lane up to that midpoint that you see where it looks like there's an X there.
Yep, got
Okay,
it.
right there. So, and on the other side, on the east side of that, is also owned by the same entity. So we're vacating that to them.
So they get the 10 feet plus all that.
They
They already
get-
have the other.
Yeah.
They get that whole strip, right? Because right now they're required to keep it open,
Right.
Yeah.
right? So then let's go north of that, then, if you can use your marker there, thank you. That's not being vacated. If you vacated it, because there's different property owners,
Yeah.
one half of the alley would go to
Gotcha.
one, and
Okay.
they'd get 5 feet, and the other half would go to, whatever that owner's name is there.
The tire.
And they'd get 5 feet, and in essence, that alley would become unusable.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
no one you'd be transgressing to get access there.
Gotcha.
So by leaving that open, it services both of those entrances. As far as North Canton Collision is concerned, they do accept, deliveries in the front of FedEx trucks, Amazon trucks, whatever, but the delivery of vehicles will occur off of Rose Lane in a gated fence that'll be right down there on Rose Lane. And then
Yeah.
someone will slide the gate back, they'll bring the vehicles in, and they'll be able to park them and arrange them accordingly.
Okay.
I think what you're asking about turning around, both of the businesses at the north side of the alley have turnaround space. So there's this
Okay.
triangle behind Zepp's and then this property that
Okay.
has cars parked on it.
Okay, yeah, because I see
Also-
it's cars, okay, so,
Yeah.
okay, that makes sense, okay.
So maybe I didn't answer your question. Thank you, Ben. for this.
Yeah, thank you, Ben, well, thank you, Ben, so.
And I definitely have had a lot of people, I mean, it has recently gotten really bad when you go through, and they're sometimes double stacked on Rose Lane. So they kind of line up one and then another one, and it's gotten bad. So I've had complaints on that numerous times.
Yes. Any other comments, questions? Okay, I'll make a motion to move this to the council agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to utilities rubbish. Jamie.
All right. So we're going to talk about this first one, item 6A. So this is taking a look at repealing and replacing our current regulations for sanitary sewer lines, just getting things a little more up to date. I think one of the things that Ben and I had a conversation on, which, correct me if I'm wrong, so our code, just in talking about bringing things up to date, our code still mandates iron pipe, and that is not allowable by state code. Is that fair?
Actually, federal law.
Federal law, okay, there you go.
So our sanitary sewer code, as far as I can tell, hasn't been updated since 1973. And
So-
the example Jamie's using is our code technically says you must install cast iron pipe, which will rust and is now outlawed by the EPA.
So just bringing things up to the
Bringing
modern
things-
era, so
yeah.
to speak. And I don't know, Patrick, do you have anything else to add?
You're doing fine.
All right, perfect. All right. Any questions or thoughts on item 6A?
Comment. Thank you for cleaning up items like this.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Certainly.
Well, this is part of the project that Patrick talked about with the water line changes, that we're trying to go through methodically and make sure that everything is up to date and appropriate.
Thank you guys for doing that.
Cool. If there's no other thoughts, I would move that we move this to, move item 6A to the council agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, and in a similar way, looking at storm sewers in their respective ordinances. So this was, from what I can see and understand, it was repetitive in multiple sections, and so things are just being simplified by putting them in one place. Patrick, anything to add?
No.
Nope. Okay. It's pretty straightforward. Any thoughts? All right, well then I would move that we put item 6B on the council agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, before we adjourn, Mayor Waters asked for a 20-minute time slot to make some updates.
Thank you, President Story. No, just a couple things to remind council and for our listening audience. Of course, May is Mental Health Month, if some of you aren't aware of it. Again, we've been through a lot over the last few years, and mental health is still makes the headlines in our society. So, especially coming out of COVID-19 still, mental health is an issue for us, and this is the month that mental health awareness is talked about. So I just want to bring that to your attention. If you didn't notice, again, the flags that were at half-staff today in our city government buildings, today is Peace Officers Memorial Day, and it falls on May the 15th every year. And it's to pay tribute and homage to the brave and local, state, federal, and tribal peace officers who have died or been disabled in the line of duty. A close friend of mine just passed away this last year from the 9/11 incident. He was a New York mounted police officer on mounted patrol. And my good friend Frank just passed away here due to complications from the Twin Tower incident. Again, in accordance with the President, in honoring Peace Officer Memorial Day and Police Week, the flags were flown today at half-staff throughout the state of Just a reminder, if any of us, tickets are still available for the Goodwill Community Breakfast by Goodwill Industries, Greater Cleveland, and East and Central Ohio. I'll be attending that on behalf of the city. Thank
When
you.
is that?
That's Thursday
Thursday
morning at the Nash Family Event and Conference Center at the Pro Football Hall of Fame Museum. That's Thursday, 5/18. It goes from 7:30 to 9. So I just wanted to bring that up to you. Don't forget, Friday and the 19th and Saturday the 20th is the North Canton Garden Club, their 2023 perennial plant sale. So it's always a good time to get your plants for springtime. And also this Saturday is the 720 market. So don't forget about that. That starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, right there in front of City Hall. And our City Hall portico will be used quite extensively. But 720 is this weekend. And just something that maybe doesn't get a whole lot of recognition, also on the 20th, this Saturday, is Armed Forces Day. And for those of us that have served in the military or have relatives in the military, again, that's observed the third Saturday of every May. And again, that's dedicated to paying tribute to the men and women currently serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. So I just want to make those dates available and think about those. So that's all I have, sir. Thank you very much for allowing me that time.
All right, thank you.
Bring that to the council's attention.
It was under 20 minutes. Thank you.
Well under.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.